Even if you are over 50 and you've never picked up a pencil, it's a myth that drawing is difficult. You can do it. It should be fun and it should be accessible. And that's part of the vision of this channel. Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell, and on this channel, I create art videos to encourage the artist in all of us with a focus on beginner-friendly content. Today, I want to do something a little different though. I want to talk about my vision for the YouTube channel, about what's going on around here, what's changing, but most importantly, my vision for your artistic journey and your artistic practice, because this channel is really all about you and what you're getting out of these videos. Recently, we hit 400,000 subscribers, which is incredible, and I thank you for being here. And this April, I'll have been doing the YouTube thing, for 5 years, so I think it's about time to take a moment and talk about what's coming up. I know a lot of you are curious about how I got started on YouTube, and as an artistic person, I think it's really can be difficult to carve out your path and figure out how to make a living through your creative pursuits. And so in the spring of 2015, I was waitressing and I was blogging. I started the blog in 2013 and I just wanted to share all of these ideas I had, whether it was canning food or doing leather work or block printing or hand lettering. I was excited to put my creative work out there because I didn't have that in my profession. And I was just sharing these things on my blog, which is still out there if you want to go back and read the old posts. And I eventually put out a YouTube video about hand lettering. That was the very first one, and it just did well, and that pushed me to put out more videos, and that's where the channel began. And the funny thing is, I started doing watercolor videos that year because I wanted to start painting with watercolor. And Chris sometimes teases me about, teaching watercolor when I didn't even know how to paint, but I didn't see myself as a teacher. I wanted to encourage anyone else out there who was like me, didn't really know how to use watercolors, had some prang set from the dollar store. I wanted to say, we can create something that's kind of pretty and cool. And I just thought, I can make some pretty stuff as long as I keep it simple, and I could show you how to do the same thing. And that's still how I see myself. Not so much as an influencer or a teacher, but as an encourager. I want to encourage you to pick up a paintbrush, even if you've never painted or never drawn, and I want you to feel that this creative practice is something that you deserve and that you can have. And you don't have to be good at drawing or good at art to have that creative time in your life. One of the things that we, I think, as a society have a little bit of trouble with is the distinction between art and fine art. Yes, there is fine art in the world, but journaling or doodling doesn't have to rise to that level. Just because fine dining restaurants exist in the world doesn't mean that you can't make a simple and beautiful meal for your home and your family. But when it comes to art, there's this disconnect. As soon as you say you're an artist or you enjoy art, people sort of think this hoity-toity, oh, you're an artist. And that can be intimidating, but really, artistic time should be as simple and approachable and enjoyable as dribbling a basketball around the driveway or noodling around on a piano or cooking a little lasagna for your family. It should be fun and it should be accessible, and that's part of the vision of this channel. Even if you are over 50 and you've never picked up a pencil, it's a myth that drawing is difficult. You can do it. And if you think about illustrations of the world, you might be like, I don't know any illustrators, but you do. Think about how a Disney illustrator illustrates a person versus how The Simpsons did it versus how Beavis and Butthead did it. Those are all different illustrations of people, and no one is more right or more wrong. It's really just about the illustrator's unique perspective and voice, and that is what you bring to the table when you sit down to doodle and draw. And something else that I say often is that almost all of us have a phone, so we all have a camera in our pockets. So it's not your job to be a camera. You can get very weird and wild and wonderfully creative with your drawing or your painting. With all that said, with this idea that creativity is play and that you can do it, that anyone can do it, there is still a challenge to picking up that pencil. I get that. There is something about art, when you start, you might not be happy with your work, and that is okay. And that can be difficult to overcome, even though you're just trying to have fun, you're just trying to have some self-care, doodly time. And I get that. And I want to read you a little passage that has really helped me understand how to feel about that feeling. This is a quote from Ira Glass of New York Public Radio in the US. So he's a radio host in America, and I mean, the radio and TV, that's the original content creators. And so this is something that I think we all as artists need to hear. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone had told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there is this gap. For the first couple of years, you make stuff. It's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into this game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out or you are still in this phase, you've got to know it's normal, and the most important thing you can do is a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you will finish one story. It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap, and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. And it's gonna take a while. It's normal to take a while. You just gotta fight your way through.
Hallelujah.
I feel like I'm gonna cry. I just love that. Okay, part of the reason that this quote resonates with me has less to do with my painting and drawing. I'm pretty happy with how those things are going, but it does resonate with me. And I'll tell you why, and you might have already guessed why. Because one art form that I do every week, every day, that I'm not as comfortable with is video content. We're doing it right now. Chris and I are just on a shoestring figuring out this filming thing, this YouTube thing. And for a really long time, I was so obsessed and just saddened by the way the YouTube videos looked. I was a blogger. I thought I was a pretty good writer and a pretty good photographer. I had a lot to learn, I realized, but I was comfortable with those mediums. And when it came to film and digital photography, it's a lot, and it's still a lot. We're still getting the hang of our sound design. We're still getting the hang of our B-roll, of how we want to invite you into a video. I do cringe when I go back and look at those first videos, but I could never have gotten here. Chris and I could never have gotten to this point if we hadn't done those first, 200 videos, 250 videos. And it is the same with my watercolor journey. I started out doing splotches of color with paint and then just putting a hand-lettered quote over it. So really simple. And it was through doing watercolor projects every day or every week that I got to a place where I was really happy with that medium. It's all about just putting yourself into your work and just doing a whole lot of it. I paint almost every weekend, and a lot of it I never show online. It's just me listening to a podcast and painting away, and then some of it's not great, and that's okay. And actually that feels good to be like, that wasn't my best, but it was such a nice afternoon. And it feels good when you finally get to that place where you start to say, hey, the work I had in my head, the video that I imagined is the one that I'm watching now on the screen. That's a really good feeling, and you deserve that too. So start because it's fun. Feel it when it's hard, that's okay, and then stick with it and do more work. And that's what I can say if you're starting out and you're kind of confused about, you know, why it's difficult and why you don't like the work you're doing, but you would still enjoy the pursuit of it. Just a couple more little things that I want to talk about before we end this video. And one of the things I want to talk about a little bit is copying. It's a big subject and I want to keep it positive and just say a few words because I think it is something that we should address. So I often get emails, and these are the sweetest emails, and I love these. You have been following along with the channel and you're at the point where you're kind of ready to sell your own work on Etsy or whatever, and you know that it's kind of inspired by my work and you just want to check in and make sure it's okay. That's really sweet of you to do. And because I see myself as a teacher and an encourager first and foremost, I almost always say yes, go ahead. I want you to learn here and take that knowledge and go out and start your own creative career, your own creative pursuits. And I of course hope that you'll kind of push it in your own direction. And I think that's a natural thing. It won't always look like mine. The more you paint, the more it'll look like yours. But when it comes to you creating work that's inspired by this channel and you're posting it on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook, anywhere online, that's different. I would never expect you to paint eucalyptus and then write on the back, inspired by Shada Campbell. But if you post that eucalyptus or that rose or that planner cover page online, I do expect you to say very clearly, this was inspired by Shada Campbell. And I do the same thing. There was a couple planner pages last year in 2019 that I was inspired by other artists, maybe a weekly layout or a little illustration. And I would always say clearly in the video who it was inspired by. I would say it in the description and link to them. And I would also write it on the screen at the time. Because the most important thing you can do for another artist is to shout them out. And it's so important as an artistic community that we are sharing and shouting each other out. And Chris and I, this channel is getting bigger and that is great, but it is still for us a small business. And the one thing that you can do that doesn't cost you anything that really, really helps us is to just give us a shout out. Tell people that you love this channel, and definitely if you are creating the artwork and sharing it on your Instagram, which I want you to do, just please clearly tag me on Instagram or say, give the video a shout out as well. Okay, and the next thing that I want to talk about is a little bit of an announcement, and this is to do with our Patreon page. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to give a little tour of Patreon. So every week, when the Friday video comes out, we also offer weekly bonus content, things like worksheets to help you with your illustrations, coloring pages, an extra monthly tutorial, all kinds of stuff. And that's all available on my Patreon site. All the bonus content is $2 a month. There's also ad-free videos for $5 if you don't like those YouTube ads. And so what I want to do at the end of today's video is give a little tour of Patreon, because when you're not paying and you're not a patron, everything is kind of locked and you don't really get a good sense of what's there. So I'm going to give you a little tour of what it looks like on the inside. But before we get there, are you still with me? This is a lot of chit chat. I wanted to mention some news, and that is that we are going to be launching a $10 tier for Patreon. And this will not affect the $2 bonus content. This is something different. What we want to offer, what I want to offer going into 2020 is a real online workshop. So once a month, I'm going to do a live art class. And the idea is that as patrons of the $10 tier, you'll be able to send in your questions, anything you're struggling with all through the month. And then at the end of the month, I will do the online art class, and I'll take as many of those questions as I can, and I'll have a little bit of a lesson prepared, and you'll be able to tune in live, and you'll be able to even ask questions in that online class. So it's going to be a lot more personal. So if you're looking for a more personal online connection and learning experience, that's what we're trying to offer. This $10 Patreon tier will be available for you to join as of February 1st. And then the online workshop will take place on the last Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, there's no perfect time for us to pick because we have a worldwide audience. So that's what we're gonna start with, 4 p.m. on the last Thursday of every month. But we, of course, will post this online workshop to Patreon for everyone on that tier to watch the very next day. So if you couldn't be there one Thursday, if you have a question like, I'm not sure how to mix up a really natural looking green, email that in. If I get it soon enough, I'll include it in the workshop, and then you could watch the workshop the next day and see if your question gets answered and still take it in. You wouldn't be there questioning me live, but we may get so many questions that we are doing a first come, first serve through the email anyways. I'm gonna post the email that you can use to ask questions. So start thinking of your questions and send them to that email above. This is not an email that we're checking all the time, so don't send any like tech or YouTube questions there, but any art questions that you would like answered if you are a $10 tier Patreon member. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. It's a great way for us to reach out and get a little more personal and for me to answer your exact questions. So I'm really excited about that. And I think $10 a month is a good price for like a personal art lesson. And so I hope you'll agree and that you'll join up. So what we're gonna do now is move over to Patreon, and I'll give you a little tour around. You can see what's going on over there if you were a member. And thank you for watching and following along and listening to my long-winded ramblings about this channel and about art. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're taking off now, and I will see you Friday with a new tutorial. Okay, so here we are. This is my Patreon site, patreon.com/Shayda Campbell. And when you are logged in, this is what it looks like. Now, over on the right, you'll see the 2 tiers, and you can be a member of the $2 tier or the $5 tier. They're listed here, and there's a list of everything you get. So with the $2 tier, you get an extra tutorial every month, plus all those weekly goodies, things like worksheets and art prints. And then with the $5 tier, you get all of that stuff, but you also get ad-free videos. And that just means the regular YouTube videos, but without the ads that Google places in front of them. And then down in the center here, it's kind of like a Facebook feed. You can see all of the posts that I've put up. This week we did our planner printables to go with the Plan With Me video. Underneath that, you can see the video there that is available for the $5 tier. They can watch it without an ad, and it still has the description and everything, so everything's here. Last week I did this dark floral watercolor, and the bonus content was a printable, so you could actually print this art out for your own home or your office or whatever you like. And all you have to do is click there, and there's a category tag below that. So there's a difference. When it says art prints, that's the category, and the dark floral art print JPEG, that's the download. So there's a bit of a difference, and those category tags are helpful, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you just see all these posts, and they go back a couple years. But what you want to do if you need help getting around is use these feature tags. And there's a whole bunch of them here, the most popular ones, but you can also go up to posts. And if you click there, you can see those tags plus any other tags that I might have used. So if you want to click coloring pages, or if you want to see all of the exclusive tutorials, those are the extra monthly tutorials, all you have to do is click the featured tag, the category tag, and then all of those posts will come up. So in January, we did a video on watercolor flowers. That was the bonus tutorial for the patrons this month. And if I scroll down, you can see some of the other videos that have come out over the past year. We've done a really fun watercolor wreath. We've done this beautiful sort of negative space watercolor image with a graphic letter or number in the center. We've done some art journaling. We've done birthday cards. We've done watercolor tropical leaves, all kinds of stuff. So it's the typical content that you see on the YouTube channel, but just special as something extra just for the patrons. Now, if we come back up top and click another one of the feature tags or category tags like planner printables, you can see all the different items in that category. So every month, I'm releasing things like the cover pages, so you can actually print the cover page that you see in my journal. I also gave out the key, my goals page, so if you're setting up your 2020 journal, all of these printables are available for you, and they go back 2 years, so there is a lot of content that you can grab and enjoy in your own planner. Now, if we kind of scroll back to the top of the page here and we'll click one more, we'll click the worksheets category tag so you can see what that's all about. If I do an illustration tutorial, I try to put out a little worksheet so you can see there was one for the houseplants, the winter greenery, the florals that are from the summer. So they're just step-by-step sheets that if you're watching a video and you have a worksheet, I feel like you'll really be successful. So if you're struggling, this could be just that little extra bit of help that maybe you might enjoy. And that's pretty much it for my Patreon tour. This is the Patreon page. This is what it looks like when you are a member. You've got these different category tags so you can enjoy printables, clip art, exclusive tutorials, and it's all available for $2 a month. Choose the $5 tier if you want ad-free YouTube videos, and the $10 tier for the online workshop will be available on February 1st. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this little Patreon tour, and I will see you soon with a new tutorial.